Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is John Kirby, and I've been asked to introduce tonight's speaker, Jeremy Stoker. Jeremy was born and raised in the Seattle, Washington area, and is the youngest of 5 children to Grant and Carolyn Stoker. Jeremy had many interests growing up, but when it came time to choose a career, he chose the path that had his biggest passion, which was to become an airline pilot. So after spending his childhood in the gray, dreary, and rainy Northwest, he migrated south to hot, dry, and sunny Prescott, Arizona, where he attended Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. There he received a bachelor's degree in aeronautical science, graduating magna cum laude. Jeremy also served an honorable full-time mission in Mendoza, Argentina, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Over the course of Jeremy's career, he has flown as a pilot for several companies, including American Eagle, FlexJet, Jet Select, and his current and favorite company of all, American Airlines. He chose American not just for the opportunity it gave him for career growth, but also to be able to make Allen, Texas, the home base of operations for his family. Jeremy has been married to Adrienne Stoker for over 18 years and is the father of 3 children, Brooklyn, Michelle, and Kyle. Being a pilot has given Jeremy the privilege of visiting over 20 countries and 48 of the 50 United States. Besides being a pilot, Jeremy loves hiking, especially really tall mountains, practicing Krav Maga, and his new passion, boating on the lake. In just the last year, Jeremy's read more than 50 books, journaled over 1,000 pages, attended seminars, and taken online courses to further his personal growth. And Jeremy writes articles integrating the concepts of flight with personal development. And Jeremy has accomplished all of this in spite of his extreme physical challenges over the last year. Jeremy has a deep-rooted belief that our purpose in this life is to constantly grow and progress beyond who we are today. Once he achieves a challenging goal, Jeremy always tells himself, I can do that better next time. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker and my closest friend, Jeremy Stoker.
Adrienne doesn't even know this because it's a little embarrassing. But I have a little ritual that I started 24 years ago when I first started flying airplanes, and I still do it to this day. So as you see up there, we have a picture of a jet bridge. As I walk down the jet bridge and I get to the end, you know that corner right before you turn and get into the airplane? I stop right there and I look around, and if there's nobody around, I do my goofy little ritual. First, I stop, I take 3 deep breaths. Because I love the smell of jet fuel. Absolutely love it. When I was flying propeller planes, it's called avgas. It's just aviation fuel, gasoline with lead in it. And I've been doing this for 24 years, so I'm pretty sure I have a tumor right now. But I take 3 deep breaths, and then after I do that, I look around again, nobody's here, and I do some bouncing up and down. Kind of wake myself up, shake everything out. And then, this is the most embarrassing part, I kind of whisper yell to myself. I say some really goofy stuff like, we got this. Here we go, let's fly. Let's roll. And then I look around and no one was there. Okay, this wasn't terribly embarrassing. And then I get onto the plane. And I do that probably 8 out of 10 times because usually I'm getting on the plane and I'm first one there or they're already on the plane so they don't see me doing this around the corner. I do that for 2 reasons. One, I kind of want to clear my brain from everything that was happening before I got on this jet bridge. Whatever happened on the last flight, whatever happened at home, whatever shed blew away, whatever Dave Fisher is fixing at my house, I'm just clearing that out of my head and I'm getting ready to fly an airplane. And second, I'm about to get locked into a cockpit with a bulletproof door and strap myself into a chair with a 5-point safety harness. Now, a 5-point safety harness goes over the shoulder, 3, 4, 5. You're no longer sitting in the chair, you're now part of the chair. And you're going to be doing that for the next 2 or 3 hours. So I've just kind of always done that, just kind of clear my mind, loosen up my body. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Everyone stand up. And we're going to whisper yell, we got this, okay? Because when I'm flying a plane, it's not, I don't say I got this, I say we got this, because I'm not doing it alone. There's lots of people helping me out. So everybody, 3 deep breaths. All right, everyone jump up and down. Shake it out. And then we say, we got this. We got this. We got this. All right, sit down. Whatever's going on outside the door doesn't matter anymore. Strap yourself into your chair. This is where you're going to be for about an hour. These are not comfortable chairs, so it's just like being in a cockpit. Not comfortable chairs. All right. I did not come up with this stuff that I'm going to talk about tonight on my own. I didn't come up with hardly any of this stuff on my own. I simply gathered it, and I'm going to present it to you guys. So I want to give credit where credit is due. This is Mr. Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is the most clear-thinking, clear-speaking ideas man I've ever heard in my life. If he's got an idea in his mind, no one can explain it better than him right there. He was a mentor to this guy, Tony Robbins. No one can take a concept of what you should do and then show you how to do it better than that guy. Stephen Covey, Jim Rohn, and Tony Robbins, and just about everyone else references the 7 habits of Stephen Covey over and over and over again. Hal Elrod wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. Completely changed the way I do my mornings. Completely changed it. This guy, Benjamin Hardy, wrote the book called Willpower Doesn't Work. He has an online program that me and Adrian signed up for just over a year ago called AMP Accelerated Momentum Program. Completely changed the way we live our lives. Completely changed our perspective and our daily habits. A lot of credit goes to that guy. But I think the most credit goes to that guy. If you don't know who that is, let me give you a hint. That's me, first grade. When I was in first grade, my dad took me to my very first air show, and I smelled that jet fuel for the very first time. And I fell in love with that smell. Absolutely fell in love with it. And there was that moment, that little boy right there, who had a dream so big that I was able to overcome all the obstacles that were between first grade and where I am today. He put a dream so big in my head that no matter what the obstacle was, and Adrian can attest to this, there have been many, many, many obstacles to me becoming the kind of pilot I am today. His dream overcame all those obstacles. His dream was so big. So thank you, little Jeremy. We can give him a round of applause too. Thank you. So, some interesting statistics. If you fly on a U.S. airline, we're talking your Delta, your Southwest, your United, your Frontier, Alaska, JetBlue. If you get on one of those planes, and let's not forget my favorite, American Airlines, you have a 99% chance of surviving that flight. Sorry, 99.99%, no wait, sorry, 99.99, nope, sorry, 99.9999999. I ran out of space, it's actually 7.5, and then some more change, so I rounded up to 8 chance of surviving that flight. There's been 1 death in the last 10 years out of 8 billion passengers that have flown. 1 death, and that's fairly recently, that horrible engine failure on that Southwest airline that killed that lady. That's just within this last year. 1 in 8 billion chance of dying on an airline. When you get on a plane, it is inherently trying to kill you. Not the plane, but the environment that it's in. When you're flying between 30 and 40,000 feet, it is very, very cold outside. It is between 70 and 80 degrees below zero. If there's no air up there, if you weren't breathing pressurized air, you would go unconscious in 5 to 8 seconds. You'd be dead in 3 to 5 minutes. There's so little air up there. And you're also flying at the muzzle velocity of a .45 caliber bullet. You're literally flying at the speed of a speeding bullet. If you were not protected, your skin would be ripped off of you. Not to mention we're navigating around massive storm systems that have more energy in them than a nuclear bomb. Everything is trying to kill you when you get in a plane. So think of that next time you get on a plane. But the airlines and the FAA have come up with such an amazing system that they can take all these dangers and put them through a filter of procedures and principles And out the other end of this filter comes a product that is 99.999999998% pure. Tonight I'm going to share with you one of those layers. I can't share them all. We'll do that another night. One of those layers we're going to talk about. It is the aircraft flight log. We also call it the aircraft logbook. The aircraft logbook is unique to every airplane. Every airplane comes off the factory floor and it gets its own logbook. Even though it's the exact same plane, that plane is going to have a very, very unique life in and of itself. So it has a logbook where it can track its own life. When I get onto an airplane, I have another little ritual that I do. It's called bags and books. I load my bags up in the cockpit and I grab my books. The first book that I grab is the aircraft logbook. That logbook tells me the status of the airplane. It tells me if the plane is broken and is not able to fly, or it tells me if it's fixed and or legal to fly. Now, every logbook is unique to an airplane, but every logbook is essentially the same thing. This is a logbook I pulled up from Southwest Airlines, because I don't want to pull up American just in case they want to fire me afterwards. So I pulled up one from Southwest Airlines, and you see this is unique to aircraft 8606. And inside you will see it's to from, the city it's gone taken off from and where it's gone to. Next you have items that have been broken and then how they fix them. And then over here you have items that are deferred, items that are broken currently, but you can fly with them broken. They're not critical to the flight. Now those items have an expiration date on them. Usually it's 3, 5, or 10 days that they have to be fixed. But there's enough redundancies in the system, and there's certain limitations they put on the pilots to how we fly it, that we can literally fly a broken airplane. Because if we didn't, planes would be on the ground all day, every day. You could never take them up in the air. And even knowing that planes are flying around broken, remember 99.9998, it's a good system. So at the end of the flight, you have to sign the logbook. If anything broke, you write down something broke, you call a mechanic. Mechanic comes out and he fixes it or he defers it, and you write down where you flew from and where you went to. So the captain does that at the end of the flight. Now when I grab that logbook, I'm looking for some certain trends. I'm looking for some certain different things. One of those is a trend. So I open up that logbook and it shows me what's been repaired recently. So let's say hydraulic system number 2 has been repaired twice in the last 10 days. What do you think I'm going to be watching during that flight? Hydraulic system number 2. Let's say I open this up and I see deferred here. The right thrust reverser is deferred. It is not working. I can still fly without that. Now a thrust reverser, in case you don't know, when you land it takes some of the air that shoots out the back of the engine, and with some vents and stuff it shoots it forward and it helps to slow down. So every time you land on a plane you hear that sound. That's the thrust reverser. The engine is literally firing up to push air forward to help slow you down. We can fly with those deferred, but we have certain limitations. We can't land on a short runway, and we got to make sure the runway is not snowy or icy. So it seems pretty obvious, right? Imagine if we didn't have this system. How long do you think it would take before the plane started to look like that? A week? A day? Who would want to get on a system that is not having its maintenance tracked? I wouldn't fly it, and I wouldn't let anyone get on that plane. So the airlines have come up with a system. It's not word of mouth. It's not, hey, try to remember it. It's not, hey, put a Post-it note that sticks to your shoe and you drag it through the airport to the next gate. They have a system that's unique to the airplane, that stays with the airplane, and that's what keeps those airplanes or part of what keeps them 99.99998% safe. So this is what Stephen Covey refers to, because everyone else refers to Stephen Covey. I want to be like everybody else. This is what Stephen Covey refers to as sharpening the saw. You take a little bit of time and effort now to prevent a lot of time and effort later. If we weren't tracking these things, life would be much harder for the pilots, much more frustrating for maintenance, and would waste a lot of time and a lot of money for the airlines. So we take a little bit of time and effort, track this stuff, and then we save the airline, we save the pilots a lot of hard work, we save the mechanics a lot of frustration, and we save the airline a lot of wasted time and energy and money. So Just like when you sharpen a saw before you cut down a tree, take a little bit of time and effort to sharpen that saw so it doesn't take so much time and effort to cut down the tree. So next, most of you know, I think all of you know, this last year was kind of a rough year for me and Adrian. I was in chronic pain this whole last year. And because I fly airplanes, I can't take the really, really good drugs to take the edge off the pain. I was either in pain, flying, or in too much pain and not able to fly. I was homesick. It was very, very frustrating. All of our plans that we had for this year, tossed out the window. Our vacations that we were going to do, the things we wanted to do, our finances were tossed out the window. We were perfectly set up to have the most miserable year of my life. And if I'm having a bad year, guess who else is having a bad year? Adrian and the kids. However, and I think Adrian will agree with this is probably the best year of our 18-year marriage. This was probably the best year, despite the potential of being the worst year, of our 18-year marriage. That's because me and Adrian over this last year have been implementing a lot of those filters. We're able to take a lot of the garbage that came into our lives, put it through these layers and through this filter, and out the back end of this filter came something that was good, something that was usable, something that we could take on and go, wow, we really have something good here. Instead of going, wow, we just have a big pile of crap here. Woe is us. As we implemented these layers, as we really try to work on ourselves personally, I noticed two things. First off, personal development turned out to be spiritual development. Never crossed my mind that that was even an option. But as I developed personally, and as I watched Adrian develop personally, a lot of the spiritual things that we had stagnated on. I mean, you guys know we're religious, we come to this church, we contribute, we pray, we do all the things we're supposed to do within this religion, but we kind of felt like we'd stagnated. And we didn't even know we stagnated, but we kind of had. And it's when we started to develop personally, like our eyes started to open up to the bigger picture. We started to notice that the principles of this personal development were eternal. They're not just for now. They've existed long before we got here, and they're going to exist long beyond. They go across cultures, they go across religions, they go across individuals, they cover everything. They even filter into industries, like the aviation industry. That's another thing that surprised me. A lot of the principles that we used to develop ourselves personally, I kept seeing over and over and over again when I was flying airplanes. The way the planes were built, the way they're regulated, the rules I flew under, the decision making that I was doing. I'm like, this is what I'm reading about in this book over here. This is what Stephen Covey said over here. We went to that Tony Robbins seminar. That's just like when I fly an airplane. And it just blew my mind. One of them is journal keeping. Now, before I started doing all this stuff, I had some very, very naive, narrow-minded ideas of what journal keeping was. I thought either you keep a journal and it's a chronological history. And I thought, well, I flew from Dallas to Chicago to New York to Miami, right there. I don't even want to reread that. That's boring. No one else is going to want to reread that either. So I'm like, I'm not even going to bother doing that. Or I thought journals were the secret keeper girl diary. I thought it was for lonely little girls that had deep, dark little secrets, and they're going to write them in their little journal and hide them and pretend they don't want anyone to find them, but they really do want someone to find it. So I'm like, well, I'm not a little girl with a lot of secrets. I don't need a journal at all. And that was a very naive way of thinking about journaling. So tonight we're going to talk about effective journaling. That's going to be one of the layers I hope some of you guys leave here with, or all of you, leave with one of those layers to start filtering out the garbage that's in all of our lives. So I have a handout. We could hand this out right here. And we're going to go through effective journaling the way Jeremy does it. Now, am I the smartest guy in the room? Absolutely not. Can you do this however you want to do it? Yeah, this is just a base for how to do it, but this is how I do it. And this is constantly evolving in my life as well. So, once everyone gets a copy. At the top, you will see, and this is just a generic example. I didn't want to like be too specific to me or too specific to anyone else. And I would love to cover goal setting on another day. That's a whole nother topic for another day. And I'd love for you guys to come to that day too. But at the top, I have some generic goals. So you see, the way I do my goal setting is I start at the bottom with what's due at the end of this year. And we got cut up the credit card. At the end of next year, this person would then have paid off the credit card. And at the end of 5 years, they'd be debt-free. Goal number 2, this person's going to hire a trainer by the end of the year. By the end of next year, they're going to lose 20 pounds. By the end of 5 years, they're going to climb Mount Rainier. Goal number 3, they're going to open a new savings account. By the end of next year, they're going to have $1,000 in that savings account. By the end of 5 years, they're going to have enough money saved up to take the whole family for a trip to France. That's an expensive trip, as Nick and Haley can tell you. An expensive trip to go to France. It's going to take some time to save up for that. So you better have a plan to do it. Or else you're going to put it on your credit card that you just cut up. And then you're back to square one. So you start with your goals. The second thing you do is gratitude. Start your day with gratitude. You're not going to receive more until you accept what you've already been given. The universe has given you so much. If you don't reflect on it and appreciate it, you don't deserve any more. So when I am doing my gratitude, I am very, very specific. I'm grateful for the trees. I'm not grateful for the forest. I'm not grateful for my job. This person would be, I'm grateful I got a pay raise last month. Be specific, because things are happening to you every single day. Don't say, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful that, you know what, we went a day without any arguments yesterday. I am grateful for that. Instead of saying, I'm grateful for my house. It's been cold lately. I'm grateful for my gas fireplace that I get to snuggle up next to in the morning. Be very specific in what you're being grateful for. Then next, just like when I get on the plane, I'm looking for trends in the airplane so I can have some expectations. Write down some trends, a good trend and a bad trend in your life. So this person is paying down debt. That's a good trend. What's interesting is this may have been a bad trend before. Before it would have been bad, I'm racking up more and more debt. But once they flip that over, now that they've turned that into a good trend, they're now paying down debt. Bad, they're still arguing with their kids on a consistent basis. That's a bad trend. Next, you have my purpose. The rest is just details. So you want to make that congruent with what your trends are. You don't want to recognize a trend and then not do anything about it. So in this case, this person said, okay, we have a lot of arguing with the kids. So today I'm going to do something fun as a family. But I'm not going to take them to main event. Sorry, we have a manager from main event here. And below $150, as much as he would love to see you do that, if you're trying to get out of debt, do something fun at home for free. That way you address arguing with kids, and you did it for free, you're still able to pay off your debt. Now, that's your purpose for the day. Give your day a purpose. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have anything else to do the rest of the day. You still have to go work out. You still got your job. You still got a meeting. You still got to do the sales. You still got to get your kids to soccer. You still have all the stuff you got to do. I'm not saying don't do that. But at the end of the day, make sure you fulfill your purpose and recognize that the rest is just details. If family fun means someone's got to miss soccer practice, so be it. If family fun means Dad's got to come home early from work, so be it. If spending no money means we're eating some really, really crappy cookies that we make out of whatever crap we got in our pantry, but we're going to have fun trying to experiment and make these really crappy cookies and laugh at how disgusting they are, that's what we do because we didn't spend any money to do it. And at the end of the day, even if your meeting went bad, you had a bad day, you had an argument with someone else at work, no matter what else happened that day, if at the end of the day you had some family fun and you didn't spend any money, pat yourself on the back. You fulfilled your purpose for that day. And the rest was just details. And you can work on something else the next day. Next, questions. Questions are the answer. Tony Robbins says, quality questions create a quality life. Successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. Mental productivity expert Jim Quick says questions are the answer. So, When you're asking questions, and you should ask yourself questions every single day, and believe it or not, you're actually asking yourself questions all day, every day. You don't even know you're doing it. So you might as well ask yourself some quality questions when you start the day. Why should I pay off debt? Why should I not argue with kids? When you start with why, and you establish why you want to do something, you will then find the how. A lot of people look for the how. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Without ever discovering why they really want to do it, and then they usually stop doing it. Even if the how was an extremely effective how to do something, if you don't know why you're doing it, you're not going to do it. Next is, when you're asking questions, avoid never, always, or any sort of other absolute wording in your question. Never say, why do we always argue as a family? That's not an effective question. Because when you ask a question, you have just assigned your mind a task for the rest of the day. And your mind will search for the answer for the rest of the day. It's like when you buy a new car, you take that car out on the road for the very first time, guess what you see? Your car, over and over and over, and you're like, I had no idea so many people had this car. I would have never bought it if I'd known that. You see it over and over again because you just assigned your mind a task to look for this car. When you ask a question, even if you don't know the answer to it yet, you just assigned your mind a task to look for the answer throughout the day. So if you ask a bad question, why do I always argue with my kids? Guess what you're going to do? You're going to find a dozen different ways to argue with your kids. And you're going to get in a dozen different arguments. Why are we always broke at the end of the month? Well, when you go out to eat and go out to the store, you're going to find a dozen different reasons why you're broke at the end of the month. You're going to be spending money you shouldn't be doing. Instead of asking, why should I pay off debt? When you go to the store, you're going to have a different perspective, and you'll start to see the answers of how I'm not going to go into more debt. So, how long should this take? I timed myself this morning. And then down here, we have free thinking, where you can either answer the question, if you know the answer, or just ponder what you reflected on the day before. I timed myself this morning. I went through this whole thing. It took me 18 minutes. And I didn't even go through it terribly fast. 18 minutes. I think you guys can do it. When you get good at this, it takes you 15 minutes. Now, Adrian can attest, for some mornings when I'm doing this for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. Sometimes I will look at this sheet and I will stare at it for 45 minutes and not write a single thing because my mind's just going and just going, just because I put myself in that kind of environment. And then when I actually do start filling this out, man, I can't stop my hand from writing. Give yourself 15 minutes every single morning. And then at the end of the night, give yourself 5 minutes. Because we all know at the end of the night, you are exhausted. And the last thing you want to do is a lot of deep thinking. 5 minutes at the end of the night and just lock in the facts of the day. That's all you're doing. That's your to from. Who was I with? What did I do at 11 o'clock? Just lock in the facts of your day and leave it at that. And then go to sleep, get a little distance from those facts of the day, and now you have your 15 minutes in the morning to kind of reflect. What are my trends? What am I doing? What questions should I ask myself? And also, if you limit yourself to 5 minutes every single night, you'll do it every single night. If you're like, oh, this is so wonderful, I'm doing this for an hour. And then the next night, you're like, I don't have an hour to do that. I'm not going to do it. Give yourself 5 minutes. That's all it takes. Speaking of good questions, why should we do this in the first place? Jim Rohn said, become a student of your life. There are 7.5 billion people on this planet right now. Each single individual person is having a very separate life experience. Your life is unlike any other life that has ever been on this planet or ever will be on this planet. I'm always shocked at how I'm the youngest of 5 kids and how completely different we are. And yet, we were raised in the same house, by the same parents, went to the same schools, went to the same church, and yet we are completely different people. Can you imagine how much different I am from someone in Australia, or in Malaysia, or in Indiana? You are having a very, very unique experience. You need to be a student of your unique experience, because no one else is. And the universe, God has put certain things in your life for you to recognize. And if you don't take those 15 minutes to do it, what a waste of a life. ultimately, you will become frustrated. You'll make your life harder. The people around you will be frustrated. You will find that you're wasting time and money, just like the airlines when they're not tracking the maintenance on their airplanes. When you're doing this, you want to look for those trends. You want to see those moments when you were broken and you still went on. You want to see what limitations you have on yourself and reflect on those and not put yourself in a situation where that, like that broken thrust reverser, but I decide to land on a short runway and I crash and burn. You have limitations on you right now. You might as well pause and reflect on them, figure out what is broken in your life, give it a due date to get fixed, and until it's fixed, figure out what you can and can't do, and don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to crash and burn. There we go. Here's a quote from an interesting guy. Sterling White, back row. Me and Sterling started talking about journaling back in February, and he just took off with it like crazy. Sterling could probably stand up here and do this better than I could right now. Sterling said, journaling has helped me to regulate my emotions and self-monitor whether I'm living up to my standards. I'm less affected by the ups and downs of life because I've decided how I want to show up to the world so that I can respond to the challenges of the day as opposed to reacting to them. Sterling is noticing his trends, he's noticing his limitations, and he's setting himself up to live within those limitations. He's doing exactly what I do as a pilot. He's doing exactly what I'm doing every morning. When he journals every morning, and I know he's religious about it, he's setting himself up to succeed. And I know Sterling will tell you it's made a huge difference not only in his personal life, but in his business life as well. Elder Richard G. Scott, a religious leader and also a nuclear physicist. I just found this out recently. He was drafted by the Navy to help develop the nuclear reactor on the very first nuclear submarine. Can we agree? Smart guy? Yeah, smart guy. He said, I am convinced that learning to record impressions that come directly to us will increase our likelihood of acting on those impressions, thereby opening the door to further guidance. If you're being told step 1 and 2, and you keep forgetting what step 1 and 2 are, there's no way anyone's ever going to tell you what step 3 and 4 are. And then you're frustrated, why am I never getting anywhere? Because you're not writing it down, you're not doing it, and you're not opening up the option of receiving step 3 and 4. And the best journal of all, the scriptures. For me, New Testament, Old Testament, Book of Mormon. This is nothing more than a journal. Over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. People writing their trends, their good trends, and their bad trends. People writing what's been broken on them and what's been fixed. People asking the most brilliant questions and getting the most brilliant answers to truly eternal questions and eternal principles. And also you will see examples of people with bad trends who operate way outside of their limitations. Can you say Noah and the flood? Yeah. People that are always making the same mistake over and over and over. And guess what? You can learn from that too. And you can read about it and not bother doing it yourself. These principles are eternal. Effective journaling is an eternal principle. It existed long before we got here. It exists right now today, and it will exist long beyond we're gone. I am positive that after this life, wherever we end up, we will be told to write down what we're doing. We will be told how to journal. What we write will be tracked by other people because it will be amazing. When you are journaling effectively, you're giving your life meaning. Your life is your life. Your life is unique to you. Your experiences are unique to you. Give them meaning. Give your life a purpose. Each day is a gift. Each week has a trend. Each month has little hidden treasures in it. And as you find those little hidden treasures, month after month after month, you will see after 3 or 4 months, you do this consistently over 3 or 4 months, as I've done this consistently for 13 months now, And you will look back 3 or 4 months from now and you will be embarrassed by who you were. Not because you were so bad, but because you've come so far. I promised you that as you find those hidden treasures that are unique to you, they are great treasures to you. If I tell you my treasures, you're like, oh, that's good. But for me, it's great. It's customized just for me. You guys have little treasures that are customized just for you. You got to find those treasures. I have found that this last year could have been an absolutely miserable year. In all seriousness, it could have been the worst year of my life. My goal when I started this year was just to get through it. But as I did this journaling, among a lot of other things, I saw that I didn't just get through this year, I got from this year. I have a hard copy, and this is only one of 3, of my journal writings. I have a hard copy of all that I got from the year. Getting through the year doesn't cut it. Get from the day, get from the week, get from the month, get from the year. Start tonight. Start with 5 minutes tonight, wake up tomorrow morning, and get that 15 minutes. An extra 15 minutes of sleep will not help you get through the day. I promise you, 15 minutes of sleep will not help you get through the day. And besides, at this point, who wants to get through a day? Use that 15 minutes to get from the day. It is your day. Thank you so much for being here.